Will we MAGA or not? That is one of many questions I have for our next guest, our main man, Ned Ryan, founder of American Majority. He knows the political fight like the back of his hand, and he joins us now to tell us what's what. Mr. Ned, how you doing, buddy?
Good to be back with you, Buck. I don't know if I know all things, but maybe I can illuminate on some issues.
I just wanted to do a little quick aside here. Big congrats to your dad, who got the Presidential Medal of Freedom last week. That's some pretty baller stuff.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you saying something. It's pretty amazing. I tell people in the entire history of the Presidential Medal of Freedom, there have been only 2 track and field athletes that have received it, Jesse Owens and Jim Ryan. And to further that, there's only 7 people that have won an Olympic medal and the Presidential Medal of Freedom. So it was just an amazing day to be there, to watch, President Trump, really acknowledge my dad, put the Presidential Medal of Freedom on him. He even called me up last minute, by the way, Buck, as we're walking into the room. The president looked at my sister and me and said, "Hey, do you guys want to say something about your dad during the ceremony?" I'm like, "Sure, I'd love to." And so that was a really nice touch by the president to be able to say a few things about my dad. But truly a great man, not only for his Olympic and running career and his congressional career, but we could use a lot more Jim Ryans in this world for his honesty and his decency. And I say, I tell people nobility. This is truly somebody that is worthy of emulation.
Absolutely. Well, God bless and congratulations again.
Thank you.
Now let's crush some libs. So tell me what's going on here.
My favorite pastime.
on Capitol Hill from your perspective with these tech giants. Here's my problem. I told this wonderful and highly esteemed audience that I love everything that I think I need to say about why the tech companies are a problem. The part of this I want to talk to you about is what are we really going to do? And I do have a somewhat, I wouldn't say cynical quite yet, maybe jaded point of view on this, where it feels like we're going to say, oh, they got a lot of bias and, that's not good. And there'll be some Republicans that give gaseous speeches on this in the Congress, and then nothing happens. You think it might be another way? And if it could be another way, how could it go?
Well, there can be another way. I think you're right. I mean, I'm for all of the above. They are definitely, in their current form, the tech oligarchy is a threat to the American Republic, right? It's a threat to freedom of speech, free flow of information. Their ability to manipulate that information leads to, results in elections, all of these things. It's a very dangerous thing. And yet you're right. I mean, we hear nothing but talk from Republicans. And I'm for all of the above in dealing with these tech companies. Section 230, remove that exemption if that works. Antitrust suits. How did Facebook and Google end up between the two of them having 300 companies? If that's not a monopoly, what is? But, I wrote an interesting piece on this last fall, Buck, in which I want to go after their business model. We can do the antitrust stuff. We can remove the 230 exemption. But I want to go after their business model. And give me a few seconds to explain this. If you go back to the 1992 Indopco versus IRS commissioner, it was a rare case in which it was 9-0 unanimous decision. And Harry Blackman, liberal judge, and Clarence Thomas all agreed on this issue. And the real issue was, what do you do with listed intangible assets? Well, you have to capitalize them. You can't deduct them anymore. And so I tell people, what does it come down to when you have Google and Amazon and Facebook ads? Their ads are all about building customer lists. And one of the definitions of a listed intangible asset is a customer list database. So if you look at how those ads are being used, they're being used for customer acquisition. Well, what people are able to do now is deduct them, not capitalize them. And so I tell people, go back and look at this piece. And again, I would encourage people, go to American Greatness and look at this. It's September of last year. The question being this, and this is how you box them into a corner, Buck. They want to say, we're just doing ads on a public medium. Okay, if you're a public medium, that's going to open you up to oversight of the FTC, the FCC, all of these things, which they are desperate to avoid. And if they're not a public medium and they are doing customer list acquisition, well, people don't get to deduct the money spent on that anymore. They have to capitalize long term. It would cut their revenue in half overnight. And so all Trump has to do on this, I mean, literally, this is what it comes down to, Buck. He has to talk to Secretary Mnuchin. He has to tell him, you will issue a Treasury edict and make this issue of customer list building and acquisition a tier 1 audit issue. And then companies that have been deducting these Google and Facebook and Amazon ads have to capitalize and amortize over long term, would completely change their business model, cut their revenue in half. And so I tell people, if you really are that serious about it, if Trump really is serious, there are ways to do it, and almost overnight. The question is there the political courage and will to actually do something about it?
So, but cutting their revenue, does that just in your mind mean then that they won't be able to maintain that same degree of dominance and competitors will then have a real shot? Is that the point? Or is it just to slap them in the face and say, you don't get to be as rich and powerful anymore?
No, it opens up the market to competition. All of a sudden, people are going to start looking for cheaper ways to do this. It actually brings us back. This is my issue with a lot of this, Buck, is we've gotten into this monopolistic situation. We have not allowed competition. We have allowed a consolidation. I mean, Google controls, 90% plus of search engine traffic. We have allowed monopolies to develop. And that's why I'm encouraging Republicans and actually telling them some of these approaches, this is actually to promote free market capitalism and competition. We have to give more oversight. We have to change the tax regulations. We have to go back and look at some of these things like the Endocco versus IRS to say we are going to break this apart, to bring back free market competition, to allow more competitors to rise up, to give more people choices. Because we also know this, Buck, and again, I'm preaching to the choir, not only are Google and Amazon and Facebook monopolistic, their worldview is really monochromatic among them, and it's not our worldview.
Ned Ryan, founder of American Majorities, a buddy of ours. We're talking now about, obviously, tech, but I want to switch gears, if I can, with you, Ned, to how is the, shall we call it the new and improved Trump campaign? We're going to have Aaron Perini joining us here in just a moment to tell us what they're planning and what's coming up. So we can skip that. But just from a messaging and ground game up to this point perspective, have you seen a real shift? Because I know you were very vocal and in favor of a change up at the top of the Trump campaign. It happened. Are we moving in the right direction now? Because people keep asking me, Buck, do you think Trump's going to win? And I look at them and say, if I told you I knew, I'd be lying. I mean, no one knows, but it feels like a coin toss right now. What are you seeing?
Well, which actually is a good thing, Buck. I mean, first of all, I would remind people, go back and look at some of these polls midsummer, 1988. In fact, Dukakis, George H.W. Bush, Dukakis was up by 17 at that point, and guess who didn't win in 1988? So I tell people, polls in the middle of the summer really don't mean much. Let's look at these polls after the convention, and again, look at the likely voter polls in the battleground states. And again, we all know this comes down to 7 to 10 states. It's trending in the right direction, Buck. I will say that, again, the reset on the messaging, the switch of the campaign manager, the reset of the entire Florida team, who they just brought in one of the best ground operatives to run the entire state's field work, which is fantastic. Let's put it this way. Do I think Trump is still down? Yes. Do I think he's trending in the right direction? Yes. And I even told this to him on Friday. I said, sure, you're down in some of the polls, but the polls that you're actually doing really well in are voter expectation polls, which right now, really before the campaign gets heated up, dead heat between Trump and Biden. And by voter expectation polls, I say this. People are asked right now, if the election were today, July of 2020, who would you vote for? Well, I'd vote for Biden. Well, who do you expect to win? Well, I think Trump by 2. And so the voter expectation polls are actually a better indicator in the summer, are a better indicator of who will actually win the fall elections than straight up voter polls. And he's doing really well.
How is the campaign's digital game? I know this sounds a little bit like, kind of campaign wonk nerd stuff, folks, but I just, we can't have rallies, right? We don't have the usual political stuff going on that we would all expect, that we all saw in 2016. I mean, those Trump rallies, they were highly entertaining. They were electric. There was just something going on there. It was infectious when you saw it on TV. You just had to watch it. You had to see it. Infectious, probably not the best word to use these days, but you know what I mean? It's just, there was so much that was going on with it. What's the plan to use the digital platforms to recreate that?
it's what you and I both know. It can never be fully recreated, right? Getting people into a massive arena with that excitement, with people in close, just being able to be with each other. You're never going to fully recreate that. But I think they're doing a solid job. I think that one of the reasons we both know this, Buck, that you see these Democratic governors trying to keep the lockdowns, trying to push some of this, including those in the mainstream media, they know how powerful those rallies were in 2016, and they're doing their best to prevent them happening again in 2020. So, solid effort on the social media, but you're never going to recreate those in-person rallies. And my hope is at some point they're going to try and get those going again and doing it a little bit more sophisticated than the Tulsa one was.
Do you think that they finally have been able to turn the tide on this law and order issue, given what we've seen in Seattle and Portland? I was very frustrated. You and I talked about this on this show with the early, outreach to the other side, as if that's what was really, criminal justice reform was what this was really all about. It clearly wasn't. You think they've turned the tide on that?
I think so. I mean, the thing that's pretty amazing that we're of course not hearing that much about is this whole issue of bringing back law and order, of actually using the National Guard, of using some of these federal law enforcement agents to go into places like Portland and say, we're not going to actually let this happen. We're going to enforce, we're going to protect. It actually plays really well with the suburban moms. And so it's one of those things that, okay, let's take that, let's continue going down this path. And I think this is one of the powerful messages that Trump can actually even hit harder, is to the suburban moms, to this very important critical voting bloc. This will never come to your neighborhood. I'm never going to let this happen to your grocery store. In your grocery stores, you're going to be able to shop in safety. I've got you. I will never let this happen. So I think he is turning the corner. And I tell people there's two major issues.
That's good to hear, man. That's good to hear. I hear you, man. Ned, we got to leave it there for today. But Ned Ryan of American Majority, he's the founder. My man, Ned, great to have you. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Buck.
We can now count the weeks instead of months, really, if you want to, until people cast their votes in this presidential election. We're seeing a lot of early polls. People will tell you the polls don't matter, but then they'll show you all the polls of what's happening with the Trump campaign. What can we expect now that we know we're in this COVID-19 era where mass gatherings are not happening? I want to bring somebody on who can tell us exactly what the plan is, and that is Erin Perini. She's the Director of Press Communications for the Trump campaign. Erin, thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
So let's just start with this. What is the plan for the next month or so from the Trump campaign? What are we going to see so that this president, who was this force of nature in 2016 with live rallies, we know the rallies aren't happening right now. So how is the message going to get out there, and what is the Trump campaign planning to do so that people can actually hear why the president should get 4 more years?
So there are a couple of things we're going to be doing, right? One, you will hear us hitting Joe Biden, because while the media gives him a pass, and yesterday he took, the hard-hitting questions of why Delaware and, how do you feel your campaign's going? While the media may be trying to provide ample cover for Joe Biden, we're going to continue to be out there talking about his record. And we have built such an infrastructure in this campaign, even if we can't do in-person rallies the way that are very traditional to the Trump apparatus. What you will see is our nightly broadcasts across our social media platforms. Those have received over 1 billion, with a B, views since we started them at the end of March, every night, 7 nights a week. We are also continuing to stay aggressive with our field program. We had a national weekend of action over this last weekend where we made 1.8 million voter contacts, deployed tens of thousands of volunteers, and managed to bring in thousands more volunteers through that weekend. So we're at 5 million doors nationally knocked so far, and 61 million voter contacts made by phone. We have the app. We have so many different ways to continue to get the message out there, but to get it directly to the American people without the media bias, without the media filter. So we've got different opportunities and different ways to do that, and we will continue to do so.
Now, where do people go? They're listening to this, they're saying, okay, wait, what's at 7 o'clock, social media, Trump campaign? Where do they tune in, or how do they get involved?
So the best way is 8 p.m. Eastern Time every night on all of Team Trump's platforms. So Team Trump Twitter, Donald Trump Facebook, YouTube, on the app itself, the Trump 2020 campaign app for both Android and Apple. Every night, 8 p.m., you can tune in, and we have original broadcasting every night. Tonight is Wednesday, so you will see The Right View, which is our take on The View, and it's Laura Trump, Kimberly Guilfoyle, Mercedes Schlapp, and Katrina Pearson talking about the news of the day, what's going on in this country, and how President Trump is fighting while Joe Biden has to fight his record. We're out there all the time doing that, and it's the best way to stay engaged with the campaign.
What are the major messages that the campaign is going to focus on? I know we could go on, this could be a 3-hour conversation, right? But if you were just to give us what is the elevator pitch that we will be hearing from the Trump campaign and from the president himself about why he should get 4 more years? Why should the American people? Look, 2020 has been a tough year for the world, not just for America in some ways. Why should we give Trump 4 more years?
The only person who can bring back the booming America and booming economy that we saw under President Trump is President Trump. And then we can go into hitting Joe Biden. That means Joe Biden oversaw the slowest economic recovery since World War II. We saw how he handled the pandemic when they had the swine flu. He stopped testing. They stopped reporting cases. And this is one thing the media is allowing to happen in this country, is that they are acting like Joe Biden doesn't have a disastrous 40-year record to run on. He has racially insensitive comments. He has worked to raise taxes on the American people, to limit opportunity, to destroy the foundation of this country, and he has been one of the leading forces in this nation for it to try and not be the greatness that it is. President Trump said, hey, enough with the government. And one thing that people always tend to forget is that the reason Donald Trump is president is because of the failures of Obama and Biden. That is why Donald J. Trump is president. You don't want to go back to that. And so we're going to be out there fighting. If it's Joe Biden talking about race, if it's talking about the economy, whatever it is, we know where his record is, and we are going to remind people, because we know when he says build back better, what he is saying is we want to get back to where we were already under President Trump, but the only person who can do that is President Trump.
What is the campaign asking for, or what is their position on debates between President Trump and Biden? And do you think that Biden's going to show up for debates?
Joe Biden has no reason not to show up to debates. Why? Because he did a socially distanced debate against Bernie Sanders during the primary season during COVID. He has no reason whatsoever not to show up to these debates. And if he doesn't show up, it shows what a coward he is and how unfit he is to serve. President Trump is ready to debate Joe Biden because they've got a contrasting record that they can talk about. And let me tell you, get the popcorn ready when it happens, because President Trump will absolutely embarrass Joe Biden, because Joe Biden will have to stand there without a teleprompter, put together a complete thought, and try to defend his policies at the same time against President Trump, who we have all seen is a formidable debater. We are going to pursue these. We are going to do our best to make sure these happen. And it's really, the Joe Biden camp has no reason not to do it.
Erin Perini, Director of Press Communications for the Trump campaign. Erin, thanks so much. Good luck to you. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Time for roll call.
All right. Roll call. When we get to hear from all of you across the country, and if we really want to hear from you, let's make sure that we know that we can call in to producer Mark at 844-900-2825, 844-900-BUCK. And we can have producer Mark listen to your wonderful voicemails, and we'll play them on Friday, and we look forward to that. No one looks forward to it as much as producer Mark. Who needs to watch a baseball game and enjoy some delicious pizza when they could be listening to voicemails for a few hours as additional work during the week? Am I right, producer Mark?
Exactly. Who needs sports when I have voicemails?
Exactly. So maybe one of you can call in and be like, da-da-da-da-da, play ball, just to give a little taste of what he's missing as he's listening to the voicemails. But we do like it when you call in, and we will play them on Friday, 844-900-BUCK. Also, make sure you're going to bucksexton.com. posting stories there. We're working on a store where we're going to sell T-shirts. I think any day now we're going to get the green light on that. I'll tell you about it. It'll be very exciting. Team Buck gear never goes out of style. And also Instagram. We're going to be posting more videos, stories. I just posted a Tallulah photo. She looked adorable. Buck Sexton on Instagram. Please do follow me there. All right, Jake. Hey, Buck and Mark. I think the president needs to have the Justice Department enact a nationwide protection measure against malicious prosecution for cops. What I mean is, temporarily until the rioting is subdued, have all cases brought against local cops who are implicated in police brutality be handled by a special prosecutor appointed by the president. As long as local Democrat prosecutors think they can make themselves famous by throwing the book at any cop who's just trying to do their job, cops will have their hands tied. I guarantee those guys who want to get in there and stop the madness but don't feel empowered to do it on threat of politically motivated prosecution and harassment. Let me see. Do we think the problem here, my friend Jake, is a jurisdictional issue. The cops are going to fall under local law enforcement. It's not going to be a federal issue. Could you try to pass a federal law specifically? I don't know. You claim that cops are involved in interstate commerce or the regulation of interstate commerce by their very job, and you get some tenuous tie into how we could make this a federal issue. But I just look, Jake, I like your idea. I just don't know if we could really make this happen. You're right about Democrat prosecutors think they can make themselves famous by throwing the book at any cop. We've seen it. We know this. This is happening. Speaking of cops, I've been watching this show Bosch on Amazon. Producer Mark, you ever seen it?
I have not, no.
Pretty good, actually. Better than I thought it would be. But this is a very little thing, but I just keep noticing this because I've spent a fair amount of time out in L.A. in the last few years. And the guy who plays the Bosch character, he's like this tough-talking cop. And he's got what looks almost like a hemp wristband that he wears. You know, it's like a little rope wristband. And I see this in L.A. all the time. Guys in L.A. have a lot of wrist jewelry, wrist adornments, and accoutrements. And it feels like it's only in Los Angeles that I see this. You know, I don't mean like the Live Strong. Oh, I guess people don't really. Lance Armstrong, it's kind of he had quite a fall. But you know what I mean? It's not like that. It's just they wear a lot of little beaded jewelry things. The guys wear them on their wrists. And I mean like the tough cop guy wears it on his wrist. I don't know. Have you been out to L.A. recently, Producer Mark?
I've been to California recently. I think it's just like a surfer kind of thing.
It's kind of like a surfery thing. It is. That's right. It's sort of like a surfery thing, but very unique. I don't know. I don't see this anywhere. I don't see this anywhere else in the country where you have, men in their 40s and 50s who have multiple bracelets on. That's what you see. There's bracelets. There were bracelets out there. I don't know. It's interesting. And also really fancy white T-shirts. You see a lot of that in Los Angeles, too. You'll go out to like a nice restaurant and people will be wearing a white T-shirt. And I'm always like, that's... But if you show up to a room full of people wearing white T-shirts with their wrist jewelry in L.A. and you, like me, are from the East Coast and you wear like a polo shirt and khaki pants, now you look like a guy at the Mutual of Omaha conference from 1995. So that's the thing. When in Rome, when in L.A., I get it. All right, that was quite a digression. Mike, next up here. Hey, Buck, I discovered your show a few months back. As a conservative living in Boston, I'm often outnumbered around here. Your knowledge and insight have given me great talking points to crush my lib friends and colleagues and hear the lamentations of their women. Thanks for fighting the good fight, Shields High. He didn't say the lamentations of the women thing. I added that in because it's a Conan the Barbarian reference. But Mike, I'm so glad to help out, my man. Thank you so much. I love having people out here in the Northeast, on the East Coast, who are outnumbered conservatives like me and still fighting the fight, doing their thing. So God bless. Please spread the word to any of your fellow underground conservatives in the Boston area. Got to say, I love Boston. There's a certain charm to that place. I went there for a wedding a couple of years ago, spent the whole weekend there, did the hop on, hop off tour, and all the revolutionary history stuff. It's just great. And a great food town, too. Nothing but respect for Boston food. They really do it right there. But Producer Mark, it's cold, and it's a Dem state with high taxes, so don't worry. And I can't own guns, so don't worry.
Yeah, we're not going there. We'll go visit.
Yeah, exactly. We'll go see our friends, our Team Buck friends in Boston, but the Freedom Hut is not going to be moving to Boston anytime. Carol, You know the statues are being pulled down, leaving an empty pedestal? My idea is to install statues of Biden showing him smelling women's necks, bouncing children on his knee, holding a chain in a swimsuit looking for corn pop, just generally being creepy. Maybe a bust of his face, gaping, with mouth gaping. It would be a good use of the empty pedestals. Carol! What are you trying to give us nightmares here? Here I am. It's a statue of me when I was at the pool and my leg hair was blonde and the sun had bleached and little kids would come. They'd come touch my leg hair, but not in a weird way, in a Joe Biden way. Yeah, that's right. They just come along and touch those leg hairs and kind of prickly like a hedgehog. Not really porcupine. Porcupine will stab you with those little quills, whereas a hedgehog is just a little rough, a little different, And my chain and corn pop was, hey, man, you want to fight? And I was like, hold on a second. Hedgehogs and porcupines, and it's time for a nap. There you go. There you go. That's, I don't think they're going to make statues of Biden anytime soon, though. How long before you start seeing a lot of statues of Obama? Within this decade, there'll be statues of Obama popping up all over the place. Oh, get ready for that. Statues of Obama. Going to happen. I don't think they're going to be statues of hello, which makes her so upset, I'm sure. What happened to my statue? You didn't win, Hillary. You didn't win. There's a part of me that every time I make fun of Hillary is like, I'm afraid I'm going to open my closet door or something. She'd be like, I'm here. She's just, you can't escape her. She's everywhere. She's everywhere. All right. The man known as Chopper. He likes to write in, and we always remember it because his name is Chopper. Buck, it's not often I have to disagree with you on this point, but I think it must be stated. Eric Swalwell is not the most famous for the Russian collusion lie. I'm pretty sure he's most famous for farting on a live TV interview. May seem trivial, but I believe in the truth. P.S. Thank you for giving people a voice. Well, my man, you certainly got to the chopper with this one. So thank you for that. And yes, I do recall that there was the great Swalwell flatulence incident of 2019. And look, it can happen. I don't really make a lot of fun on that because, I don't make a lot of fun on that because it can happen to the best of us. One day, I don't know. I do a lot of radio. Things can happen. John, Shields High, Real News fan. Ooh, John, going back in the day here. Blasphemers, the both of you. Man of Steel, always calling you out, Producer Mark. Man of Steel was a great Superman movie, mainly because it brought Krypton, its story, and its technology to life in a way never previously seen before. Now, as for the other Superman movies, you're both too young to know what it was like to see Reeve be Superman as a kid. Stop trying to ruin my childhood. Bring back Movie Line Friday and Commie Bear, please. Well, here, we could do this. If you want to try to challenge me with an action movie quote, and that actually predates Producer Mark's times. He doesn't remember Action Movie Quote Friday, which we used to do on the show, which was a lot of fun.
We can bring it back and replace the voicemails. I'm okay with that.
Well, yeah, but then we'd have to start taking live calls, Producer Mark, because that's how we do it.
No, we don't have the capability. Sorry.
Yeah. So what we will do is you can call in to Producer Mark's favorite voicemail box, and you could pose an action movie quote there, which would be a succinct and useful voicemail for us. There you go. Action Movie Quote Friday is also now rolled into Voicemail Friday. And as for Commie Bear, I don't know. Some people really like I felt like Commie Bear, was a among the Team Buck universe was an acquired taste. But the more time passed, I haven't done Commie Bear in, I don't know, 4 years now, 5 years now. People still like, where's Commie Bear? So I guess we could bring him back. It'd be a fun thing to do, especially for Instagram or. All right. I'm thinking about it for sure. Richard. Buck, here in North Carolina, King Cooper has decreed that no alcohol can be sold after 11 p.m. When did the Chinese flu become prohibition of adult beverages? When did these fools get this power? I wish a local bar here would open an illegal speakeasy. I'd go get a drink and get some to-go Cuomo chips. Oh, what do you mean by Cuomo chips? Cuomo chips are what you eat when you're trying to drink some alcohol. And you have to pretend you're eating food. Why do you have to pretend to eat food? Because I say so. Why do I say so? Because I'm the governor and I like to be in power and in control. what do I say this? Because if you're not in control, then, you get it, right? That's Cuomo. I hoist my mug of adult beverage to salute you and Mark. Keep your shields high. Richard, thank you so much. And we hoist our mug back at you. My mug full of Black Rifle coffee. We hoist it back at you. Producer Mark, are you a coffee drinker? I don't even know.
I'm not, no.
Interesting. My older brother, who is a guy who's very healthy and full of energy, he doesn't drink coffee either. I just don't even know how that's possible.
I'm not healthy or full of energy. I just don't like coffee.
You're not a tea drinker. You don't strike me as like a
I
chamomile
like
lavender
iced
kind of
tea.
guy.
I like iced tea.
Yeah, but like Arizona is not, that's like...
No, I actually have an iced tea maker.
Ooh.
Like you'll brew yourself tea and go into a big jug and put some ice in it.
You know what I got recently? It's a game changer. It's one of those make-your-own seltzer at home things. I love it.
I'm not going to name the common brand of it, but yes.
Yes. Well, maybe that common brand should become a sponsor of this show because I use their product and love it. So I might have to, you know what? That would be a fun thing to reach out and find out about because it is in fact the case that I love making mine. I'm a carbonated beverage kind of guy. Love it. Just love it. So there we have it. All right. Next up, we had Richard. Now we got Rich. Hey, Buck. Actually, wait. Hold on a second. I got to take a quick breather. All right, next up here, we have Rich, who writes, Hey, Buck, the Fouch, by way of embracing it masquerade in outdoor settings. Oh, the masquerade in outdoor settings has done us a favor in removing any doubts about his credibility and motive. It is not a coincidence that his pitch veered wildly left. Ho, Rich. I see what you did there. I also find it interesting that the normally anti-big pharma crowd is either ignoring generic hydroxychloroquine regimens or oddly dismissing its success in the U.S. as well as around the world. We didn't hear. President Trump defended remember the hydroxychloroquine thing yesterday? He actually, because people attacked the doctor, Stella Emanuel. They went after her and said that she's like a phony doctor and she went to medical school in Africa, and they were all mocking her and tearing her down. And Trump spoke on this, and here's what he said. Mark, play 16.
I was very impressed by her. Know nothing about her. I had never seen her before, but certainly you could put her up and let her have a voice. So what they did is they took down their voice. Now, they seem to never take down the other side. They only take down conservative voices. It's a shame. And with hydroxy, all I want to do is save lives. I don't care if it's hydroxy or anything else. All I want to do is save lives. If we can save lives, that's great. Now, one thing, we're doing very well on vaccines and very well on therapeutics. So that's very important. But I happen to be a believer in hydroxy. I used it. I had no problem. I happen to be a believer. Many, many people agree with me. A great test just came out from the Ford Clinic in Michigan, very respected. We'll see how it is.
I hate the audio that he gets sometimes in these pool spray where you have the reporters all in the gaggle. All the D.C. insiders have all the cool terms. They all gather around him, especially before he gets on Marine One. And look, the president saying he believes hydroxychloroquine. I've never told you that it works. I don't know that it works. And I don't know anyone who also knows that it works. We're still figuring this out. And I do know that people have lied to you about the dangers of it. That's for sure. We're still trying to figure out what is true and what is not with regard to hydroxychloroquine. All right, back into the roll call mix here. Austin writes in on Instagram, direct message, which I appreciate. Austin writes, You are the man. Also, love your dog. How old is Tulu? Austin Tulu is just about 11, and she is amazing, and she naps a lot. She's an old lady, but she's still got some spunk. She's still got some fire, especially when there's bacon or freshly roasted chicken in the mix. Then she gets very excited. It's my parents' French Bulldog, but I've had her for the whole of the pandemic. So my parents don't have to worry about going outside when they don't want to, or going in the elevator in the building where they live because there's a lot of foot traffic in there. So I'm somebody who has to live with the realities of trying to keep loved ones safe during this pandemic and do everything I can. And this has been a happy situation in that I've never really had a dog that I was taking care of for this long before. And she's amazing. I mean, I've always been a dog person, but I need to have a dog in my life. That's for sure. I grew up with a Boston Terrier. Boston Terriers are great little dogs. Remember, I'm in a city, so you got to go with city dogs. Jacqueline, to weigh in on the sandwich debate, producer Mark, I must agree with Buck that maybe you may be using some lib logic in your argument. Is this a social construct? Whatever we say is a sandwich. It is. I'm a hot dog that identifies as a sandwich. LOL. In your face, producer Mark. In your face from Jacqueline.
A hot dog is a hot dog, not a sandwich.
Oh, okay.
That's all I'll say.
We'll leave it there. That's it for today, everybody. Great show as always. Hope you enjoyed it. Pass the buck. Tell a friend. Share that podcast on Spotify. Shields high.